Yo, what's up guys? John Ponos here. Today, you guessed it, I'm gonna be using my own guide to beat Realm of Carnage. But wait, the old guide uses level 30 Manics. We only have a level 20 Manic Island over here. And Manic Island is one of the most crucial units for this stage. But wait, there's another unit in this lineup that will help out even if all of our other units are under level. Who is that unit? Of course, it is the one and only COURIER, the super powerful no gacha option that will carry the early and mid game. But lineup isn't everything in this level, and we'll see that later. Of course, I could just bring some nice Ubers in this stage as well, but that would be a bit too easy, so we'll rock with this. And spoiler alert, we did beat it in the first run. Anyways, intro out of the way. Let's hop into the stage and analyze what we did. Now, my big reason I do these types of videos is to show people that lineup is not everything in a guide. To use a guide properly, you gotta actually execute the strategy and substitute better units whenever possible. And that is exactly how we're able to beat this stage even with way lower levels, because once you get this strategy down, which hasn't really changed at all, it is a big joke. Now, we definitely could have tried some nice cheese and done the rush freeze strat, which COURIER definitely helps a lot in, but since the old guide did not cover that, we're just going with the traditional strat, which is still very effective. Now, the start really is helped by COURIER here, because in the strategy I do mention you want to get as much ground as possible. COURIER is super quick and a nice chip damage unit for this stage, which can cover a lot of ground very quickly. And I do mention in that old guide that having as much ground as possible in the stage is very important, because that's how you'll handle all the boar waves and the Arast waves. If you don't have enough ground to handle those waves, the boss has its massive range, which will end up hitting your base very easily. And we did bring Sniper Cat power up just in case it does reach that point, which doesn't really happen in this run until the very end of the stage. But with our lower level units here, taking as much ground as possible and holding that ground is very crucial, because we won't be able to kill the boss in a lower amount of Arast or boar cycles. It's going to take a way bigger amount of cycles, and that means we're gonna have to cover way more ground and try to hold it way longer. And you'll see that becomes a slight problem once we get to the very tail end of the stage. Now, the strategy did mention to lure out the boar out of the boss's range to just kill it quickly, because if you do fight in the boss's range, all of your cats get weakened, and you might not be able to kill the boar fast enough before this happens. Arast shows up, then once you have them both stacked up here, it becomes pretty difficult to hold ground. But we are okay here because we were fighting just out of the boss's range while still holding as much ground as possible, so we're able to take out the boar just when Arast shows up. Now, for Arast, we definitely do want to lure it all the way to the base to effectively take it out, not only because Arast has a bunch of knockbacks, but also because this will allow our A Bahamut cycle to go much cleaner without the boss always hitting all of our units and meat shields for A Bahamut to get those hits in. Now, I did say as long as you get 1 to 2 hits on Arast with A Bahamut, you are fine, because you could always use your ranged attackers to finish up the rest, like Dragon and Crazed Dragon or Manic King Dragon. But you can see here, we did cleanly wipe Arast with 1 A Bahamut cycle. We even got a hit on the boss with A Bahamut. But here comes the second issue. We sacrificed a lot of crucial ground for that Arast wave. Now we have to handle this boar wave pretty close to the base, and that means we're most likely gonna have to fight inside the boss's range, which means all of our cats are gonna be weakened, which means we might not be able to kill the boar fast enough before the next Arast wave arrives. This is why a level 30 Manic Island is very crucial in the stage. Even with the help of COURIER here, it still can take a while to take down this boar when it's inside the boss's range. Now, you could argue since we're using Sniper Cat power-up, we could lure the boar out, kill it as fast as possible, and try to push back the boss with Sniper Cat power-up before the next Arast wave arrives. The thing here, that is a bit too risky with lower levels, because I'm not able to perfectly gauge just how much health the boar has left, which can be problematic for all of our cycles and setting up that A Bahamut recharge for the next Arast wave. So we don't really have a choice but to play super aggressive here and just try to burst down boar as quick as possible. You know, if only we had the goat bath cat here. And look at that, Bahamut is up. That means we must use Bahamut as quick as possible without getting it killed. Now, the reason you don't want to waste too much time on this part here is because that will mess up your cycle. You do not want that to happen. because we are going to be here for a while using these lower level units, which means we're eventually going to have to fight more cycles. And if a Bahamut is out of cycle, let's say the next Aros wave, it comes out and Bahamut is not charged up, that could be greatly problematic. And that just creates a whole chain reaction throughout the whole level. Could be confusing to understand at first, this whole enemy cycles thing, but it'll be easier to understand once you figure out when the Boar wave happens or when the Aros wave happens. Once you figure that out, you can kind of gauge when to have Bahamut on recharge, when to use it, or when to use your Ubers against the cycles of Aros or Boar waves. Because after years of making guides on this stage and helping people on this stage, it became very clear that people do not like to time a Bahamut against Aros, which is understandable because if you have better Ubers, you should just be using them anyways. But when it comes to the Rat stage, get your timing down, bud. Now, as you can see, Sniper Cat did help out a bit there, getting us some nice ground back after that Aros wave. Now we just gotta handle this Boar wave once again. And if you were paying attention before, we barely were able to kill the Boar wave before Aros stacked up with a Boar. Well, they did stack up together, but Boar only was stacked with Aros for a few seconds, so it was okay. So I knew we had to just up the damage up a bit here. What could we do? We could cycle out Maiden Cat, because believe it or not, Maiden Cat with these combos could take multiple hits. And yes, before you start clowning on Maiden Cat, it does actually make a difference. If we cycle that extra Maiden Cat, Boar will definitely go down quicker, especially since this unit could just sit in range with all those combos and tank a bunch of hits, even if it is just level 30. That's why lineup is never everything. Small things like this does matter when you're able to adapt to a stage while you are actually in the midst of playing the stage. Now this time, since we did have much more ground, we decided to lure Boar and try to take it out much quicker. Because a Bahamut is back up in recharge, that means Aros wave is not too far away, and I've already explained how if you fight the Boar out of the boss's range, you kill it away quicker. So with the lower level units, it's not always great to just blindlessly, aggressively push into the boss's range. Row is really problematic for that. But yeah, you can see there how much of a huge difference that made. We killed the Boar super quick right there before Aros even got up here. But this creates another problem. We're gonna have to fight this Aros wave pretty close to the base. We gave up some ground. That doesn't mean we lose or anything, but that does mean our A Bahamut might not survive and cleanly wipe out the Aros on its own, because the boss being this close means A Bahamut is in death range. But you can see we got that one hit and that's all that mattered. Now we can barely try to take down this Aros with just Dragon Cycles, Courier, and whatever else. It would have been ideal to get that second hit with a Bahamut, because you'll see later on it gets pretty close here, and that one extra a Bahamut hit would have definitely helped take out this Aros way cleaner without being on edge with the boss so close to the base or having to deal with a Boar stack up with Aros. Now we don't have Paris or Manic King Dragon here, so we're gonna have to rely on our King Dragon, which can get the job done with the help of Courier, but of course it'll take a bit of time, especially since when Aros gets knocked back, all of our units move forward into the boss's range and then they just get wiped out, which means we can't really stack up that much dragons properly due to Aros having a higher than normal knockback count. But it's not over, because as soon as we kill this Aros, we know that Boar wave is gonna happen, and we basically have no ground left to fight another Boar wave. The boss is just inches away from hitting the base, so we're gonna have to fight the Boar inside of the boss's range the entire time if we don't get a knockback, damage knockback, or anything done to the boss here. But you can see there, Courier Goat clutched it out and we actually killed the boss. It was on his last knockback. Now we could comfortably handle this Boar and just wipe the rest of the level. So yes, it did get pretty close at the end there. One A Bahamut cycle wasn't too great. We only got one hit on Aros with a Bahamut. Then the boss killed a Bahamut, but we were able to recover there with some nice dragon stacking in quotation marks. But what really sealed us the deal for this stage was handling those early cycles much cleaner, so we had more room for error near the end of the stage. But yeah, there it was. We did it in our first run pretty simply, pretty easily, and that's all she wrote. That's all for this video. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, of course, Discord down below, all of that. And yeah, that's it. We'll be back soon. See ya.